What's it like to drive really hard for 24 hours straight? Like, are you in the car there the entire time, or are you switching off, or tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, for endurance racing, nowadays sports car racing, you have anywhere from 3 to 4, for a 24-hour race, you have 3 to 4 co-drivers. 3 to 4 drivers in the car, so you might have 2 or 3 co-drivers. I've done Daytona, 24-hour race. I've done Le Mans now twice. I've done like Thunder Hill, which is a smaller kind of club, 25-hour race. So I've got experience with those races, but unfortunately I've had some pretty bad luck with those races so far. Just kind of bad luck stuff happening. But nowadays in sports car racing, in the past it was a true endurance race where the goal was to just finish a race. If you finish a race, then you almost always did well. And nowadays, the cars and the teams and drivers are all so professional and so just drilled into, not making mistakes, that kind of stuff, that really it just ends up being a 24-hour sprint race. And you push 100% every lap. And, that makes it tough for, a 24-hour race you must make 10,000 gear shifts, over a race like that, something like that. So to think about all the mechanical things that have to last that long, it's unreal that you can drive the car that hard and have it last, and they do. So the longest race that we do on the American Mile Series circuit is Sebring, the first race, 12-hour race, and that's a brutal first race for a race car, which is what happened for us. And the car ran flawlessly all weekend long, and then in the race we just had this kind of a fluke problem with the car. So even though you might test all you want, practice whatever, have lots of time to test all the components, make sure everything works, but once you're in the race and you're pushing hard, then things often change. That's why a lot of teams from Europe, whatever, in the US, they take Sebring as their first race, as a test race for Le Mans or something like that, because it is such a tough race.
Oh, I can imagine. What's your favorite part of those endurance races? Is there a specific the first little bit of it, or the last kind of laps, or what do you enjoy most?
Yeah, the first part's cool because you kind of looking ahead, wow, I got 12 hours to go or 24 hours to go. So the first part's kind of exciting, but also a little bit just kind of nerve-wracking. You hope, for me especially, now that I've had some bad luck in these long races, I was I hope this is the one that the car just has no problems, everything goes well. So the first part's fun, and then every race sort of has their own. It's always fun to drive in the twilight. I did a stint, we call it a stint, which is one in between pit stops. So if you go, one stint would be one fuel load basically. So I got the stint, which was basically Daytona, where the sun's coming up. So as you race around the banking, there's the light will just the light level gets a bit brighter each lap, and then you can and then just kind of see the sun peeking through part of the stands a little bit. So just driving through all those different different periods of daylight and nighttime, whatever, just kind of adds to the fun of the race.
I never actually thought about that. That's really cool. I can imagine driving at dawn or right at dusk.
It's crazy to see the light change every lap. You can see just a bit more each lap.
That's really cool. Do you have a favorite course that you like to drive on?
I've got a couple that I'm just fan. For me, I like fast racetracks. So Road America is fun for me. I like fast corners, that kind of stuff. I like Road America. I like Laguna Seca's fun. There's one in Canada, Mont-Tremblant, up near Toronto. That's something about it. Just the flow of the racetrack, the way it's all laid out, is a lot of fun. I raced there in 2005 and just had a blast racing there.
Cool. Do you have a specific routine that you go through leading up to a race, or while you're racing, or anything like that?
I'm not very superstitious, so I don't have any sort of, I don't have to put, one glove on first, or put my helmet on a certain way. The one thing that I do like to do is just listen to some music before I get in the car, just to kind of get my mind sort of in that mindset. It kind of clears my mind on what's happening in the day. I just kind of focus on music, and then after that I get in the car and then good to go.
Cool. Any specific type of music, or just kind of anything that comes up on my iPod?
Yeah, I now have recently made a race day playlist that I've sort of just put some songs that are mostly just sort of kind of get me kind of pumped up a little bit. So there's some rap, there's some classic rock, there's some rock and roll, there's a little techno in there. It's all varied.
Cool. All right, so here's another interesting question that we got from our community. Do you enjoy the race, or do you find yourself concentrating so hard that you don't really notice the race?
That's a good question, actually. And one thing that, as a driver, you hear drivers talking about like being in the zone. I've felt that feeling where you're in the zone, and you don't realize it when you're in the zone that you're like, focused. You're just fully, your brain is turned off. All you're thinking about is what the car's doing. What the strategy is. All you're focused is on is just driving the race car. And the second that you know that you were in the zone is when you come out of the zone, and then you're like, oh, I got it. I like try to get back there somehow. So a lot of guys actually do lots of like mental. They like a mental coach who kind of gets them, somehow to like just a trigger to kind of get their brain back into racing again. So the racing can get boring though sometimes, even though you're driving these cool cars. But in these long endurance races, if you're 10, 15 laps down, if you're not racing somebody, you can kind of catch yourself sometimes like thinking of other things, thinking about that girl back home or something, something else, that goes to your mind. So you have to kind of get yourself back in the mindset of racing again.